June, how do you? Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Hello everyone. I would like to personally welcome you all to the first International Gamification Conference from Seoul, Korea. I'd like to thank the organizers for this opportunity and for making all of this come together. So jumping straight in, I usually have a slightly different take on what gamification is and how it works. I also like to give you, the audience, something to take away from the talk. Some thought piece that helps you to consider your processes a bit better, or something directly applicable for a project you're currently working on. So with that, I want to take you through how to engage your audiences with gamification by using a very specific point or lens within gamification and audience engagement design. And the lens that I've chosen is the epic outcome, or in gaming language, the epic win and fail. But who am I to talk to you about something like that? Well, I'm Albert van der Meer, the founder and chief crafter at aeStranger. I'm mainly a consultant that deals with audience engagement and experience design. The vision statement of aeStranger is that we help you to craft engaging experiences so that your audience is no longer a stranger. Catchy, right? Anyway, within that umbrella concept, the audience experience design is based on 4 pillars: gamification, marketing, behavioral psychology, and business strategy. What led me to this is a pretty long road. I have a background in film production and corporate filmmaking, which laid the foundation and helped me to better understand diverse audiences. From there, I went into team building facilitation, instructional design, consulting, and authoring. So along the way, I also co-authored a book on gamification and marketing called Press Start, using gamification to power up your marketing. The book aims to help people to get into gamification quickly and easily and have immediate applicability of methods and processes. In essence, the book is there to give the audience a quick epic win with gamification. And that's also what I'd like to give you today. A quick and useful takeaway for an epic win for yourself. And also how to give your audiences an epic win. And how to help you get over a failure by giving them an epic fail that motivates them even more to get that win. But before we dive into that fully, I think it might be worth quickly stating what it is that I believe gamification is, as this will lay the foundation of much of what I'm going to talk about today. As I said before, I co-authored a book on gamification marketing, and I feel that marketing and gamification actually have quite a lot of overlap. And as such, we also created a definition within our book, and that should help you think about how you can implement gamification. So, marketing gamification is the thoughtful application of relevant game elements to solve real-life problems that are connected to your organization. I think that this definition zeroes in on the fact that you must think about what does and doesn't work and how and where to apply it to your projects. Simply gathering elements from games and marketing, behaviorism, business strategy, and adding them to your project without any forethought or reason will not lead to a good outcome, and certainly not an epic one. At the core of it, if you want to achieve good gamification, you need to start with a strong and comprehensive objective. In other words, you need to know what the win-fail point is to make it epic for your audience. The objective will dictate your epic win-fail state. Or for ease, let's simply call it the epic outcome. But how do we understand the epic outcome from the point of view of the psychology that underpins much of gamification? Well, I always like to look at 1 to 3 psychological motivators whenever I work on a project with a client. In the case of creating an epic outcome for your audience, we need to mainly focus on the drivers of purpose, mastery, and autonomy. For those of you not as familiar as some in the world of behavioral psychology, These psychological drivers have relatable game elements or mechanics. Essentially, what we're looking for with purpose, mastery, and autonomy within an epic outcome is the epic meaning that we're trying to achieve, the narrative that supports the entire experience, the measurable progress, and the feedback from doing the experience, as well as the free choice that we have to determine how we go through the experience and the outcome that we gain or achieve from it. And for those that want a more business applicable perspective, then this is simply how we do business strategy, really. Where we define what the objective and outcomes are that we want to achieve from the challenge. We then determine the path with which we want to overcome the challenge, to achieve the outcome. And then we develop an action plan that lays out the steps that we want to take on that path. That, of course, is easily said. But how is it done? What we need to do is figure out what the epic outcome is that we want to achieve. To do this, we need to first acknowledge that the sensation, experience, and perception of epicness differs from person to person. It will feel different and affect each person differently, which is why it is such a difficult feat to achieve. Be aware that this process does not guarantee a 100% success rate for creating an epic experience for your audience, but rather helps you to get as close as you can. So what do we do after accepting the fact that everyone is human? Usually your project or your organization will have an objective that you're trying to achieve. To make sure it is the right kind of objective, you will need to run it through the SMART objective framework that we tend to use in marketing and business, and very often in gamification. So you need to ask, is your objective specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound? Or if you want a more gamification-oriented acronym that fits under EPIC, then is your epic outcome explicit, practical, important enough, and calculable or quantifiable? In theory, the best practice would be to run your objective through the SMART framework and then run the outcome you want from the objective through the EPIC framework. After you have determined your objective and outcome, you need a way for your audience to go through it all. They need to go on a journey that makes sense, that helps them get to the epic outcome. In other words, the lead up to the epic outcome should be done through a quest, a mission, or a challenge. The aim is that your audience gets a sense of epicness from the outcome they receive, whether it be a win or a fail. And one of the main ways we can assure this is by getting them to engage and be immersed in the challenge that the quest gives them. And to do this well, we need to give them a strong narrative to follow. Now, a strong narrative does not always mean it needs to be a fictional or a fantastical story. Many companies have strong non-fictional narratives that engage the audience. For example, like innocent drinks or Chipotle restaurants. But what all narratives need, be they fictional or not, is a clear journey, and that is they need a beginning, middle, and end. Or, as Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey puts it, and this fits quite well within marketing campaigns, is that your journey needs the call, the initiation, and the return. So get your audiences to discover you, join you on the journey, learn about the challenge, invest in it, and then achieve the epic outcome and return to the regular world, as it were, to spread the message of your story. What I should say at this point, though, is that the epic outcome, whether the narrative is fictional or not, needs to also be associated with a realistic goal. At least realistic in the sense that it is achievable but challenging. We need to remind ourselves that games and even gamification experiences are designed, for the most part, to be winnable and enjoyable experiences. Winnable with effort, though, and that is what motivates the audience to keep going. And to cement the investment of coming back and keeping on trying, we need to, as crafters, give the audience a bunch of smaller wins along the way as they progress through their experience. Practice of giving smaller wins is so that we can offer them and they can receive immediate feedback on the progress they are making. The feedback is the core of it all. Without the feedback, the audience cannot know if they are moving in the correct direction or not. And especially when the outcome is an epic fail, the feedback system is of absolute importance, because the audience needs to be able to learn from the failure. And without a clear and entertaining feedback, the fail could be a crushing experience for the player. And for them, it may seem that the challenge is likely insurmountable. As the player returns and learns more about the experience, and improves thanks to good feedback, then eventually they will achieve their epic win. As Jane McGonigal, who more or less coined the concept of the epic win in game-based experiences, states, "An epic win is an outcome that is so extraordinarily positive you had no idea it was even possible until you achieved it. It was almost beyond the threshold of imagination, and when you get there, you're shocked to discover what you're truly capable of. That's the epic win." And that's what makes the epic outcome important. The effort put in needs to be reflected in the outcome given to the audience. To add another line from Jane McGonigal, which will help the point I'm trying to make of the importance and difficulty of making an epic outcome, is go for an epic win, an awe-inspiring outcome that helps you be more motivated and less afraid of failure. And as I said, we need to give the audience smaller wins at the start. These need to give the idea that there is an epic win awaiting them. And through the effort of overcoming challenges, they learn and progress past these smaller ones. It may even be needed to give them a small epic win to offer the taste of what the big epic win will be like. And when they fail, and not if, but when they fail, it needs to be of almost similar epic proportions to what the win will be. Because that is the point that they push past the fear of failure and continue onwards to the win. The creation and crafting of a good and engaging epic outcome are without a doubt difficult. But there are a few points that we can lean on to help us with the development of the epic outcome. I should preface that a fair amount of these points are based on works that James Paul G., Ralph Costa, and of course Jane McGonigal have done. As we develop the idea of the epic outcome, we need to foster a gamer's mindset within our audience. This gamer's mindset will offer a variety of characteristics that will help us. First off, we need to offer a sense of optimism that is augmented with a sense of urgency and agency. The previously named authors have called this sense of extreme self-motivation. Because the gamer's mindset gives the audience a sense of agency and urgency, they want to tackle all challenges immediately. And because games are winnable, they have a belief that there is a reasonable amount and hope for success. This means that the epic outcome is possible and is worth trying to achieve. The second point and aspect is more of a social one and relates to competitive challenges. Whether these are competitive in the sense of a one-to-one challenge or an organization giving a challenge to a group of individuals, the point still holds. When undertaking the challenge with others, we enter a social contract. We place our trust in the experience and with each other. And that trust is that we play the same set of rules, and that we each invest in the experience, valuing it, valuing the goal, and staying in the experience until it's over. Through this, we build relationships, bonds, and cooperation. This point is important because if we wish to engage our audiences outside of game-like experiences and more with broader gamification efforts, then we need to develop relationships with them. The experience needs to be collective, whether there is a collaborative element in it of working together or a competitive element of individual effort, one of that the epic outcomes is a social connection. For marketing and business in general, this is vital, as it means that the audience trusts you and is loyal to you, meaning return business. The third point is something that relates to Csikszentmihalyi's flow concept, which is that we're engaged in an enjoyable activity that is challenging and requires effort and thus immerses us. We become one with it, and with that our productivity increases. Jane McGonigal calls this blissful productivity. If the quest and narrative are so well made and offer meaning and value as well as an appropriate challenge for an epic outcome, then within the gamer mindset, the audience will throw themselves fully into the experience. And my final point cements the immersion even more, and that is epic meaning. Yu-Kai Chao has named this as his first psychological motivator, and that's for good reason. Your audience needs and wants to be engaged in an inspiring purpose. People love large-scale stories and to be part of something that makes a difference. Though that does not always mean that every story and challenge and epic outcome you craft should be at a level of saving the planet. No, the epic meaning can still be at a normal level, but they need to evoke a sense of large-scale epicness. And that is done through narrative storytelling. At the start, I mentioned Innocent, the drinks company. They sell healthy smoothies. And their narrative is that with one drink at a time, they help you stay healthy and save the planet. This is both small scale and large scale. The small scale challenge that you are engaging with is to stay healthy by drinking their drinks and getting your 5 a day in. On the large scale, you are assisting them in continuing to maintain and deliver sustainable ingredients to all of their customers. Many epic outcomes can be seen as a collective effort that helps create a beneficial solution for everyone's future. Regardless of what your objective is, the epic outcome needs to give your audience a sense of hope, optimism, and the knowledge and ability to do concrete actions that will allow them to achieve a positive outcome. But obviously, that is not enough to make it epic. So I'll let you in on a secret, the secret sauce, if you will, of how you can make something that gives hope, optimism, and empowers and makes something even more epic. You do it by making the final event, be it a win or a fail, a surprise, something unexpected. Depending on your budget, you can make multiple unexpected outcomes. Thankfully, you only need one for the win, as that's when the audience finishes. And if they want to try it again, well then brilliant. Good for you. The fact that it is a surprise and unexpected is really what makes it epic. When you're creating that moment from effort to outcome, you need to allow the player the opportunity to pull off what can be called a moment of brilliance. In other words, the player needs to be given the chance and the options and tools to feel smart and amazing. They need to become the hero of the story. And should they fail at that moment of brilliance, then it must still be a positive experience. They need to see a way of pulling off that moment and gaining that epic win. There must always be a glimmer of hope, a way to improve. The worst you can do is create an experience where the fail is so crushing and overwhelming that the player is alienated completely. I do admit the fact that the line is incredibly fine to tread, and therefore I wanted to offer you a few examples of games and marketing campaigns that have tread that fine line. Let's start with some examples from games. The first one that comes to my mind is, when thinking about extreme difficulty and extreme optimism to self-motivate, is the Dark Souls series from Software. For those unfamiliar with the games, They lead you through a mysterious journey, testing your skill and resolve both as a player and an adventurer. The Souls games can be crushingly and punishingly difficult, but they are not impossible. The payoff for learning and understanding the strategies and motions of the fights that lead to creating a sense of epicness, and the epic win that the player finally feels when they defeat any of the bosses. But each fail is also epic. The bosses are difficult. They are larger than life, literally. When the player is defeated, they are defeated definitively for the moment at least. The crushing blow literally shakes the earth in some fights, but the player is given another chance, and hopefully has learned from the experience to defeat the boss in the next go. Another game that bridges the chasm between a pre-made game and a marketing campaign or a business strategy is the role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D. Now, D&D creates a fully immersive and collaborative world where players and a game master work through epic storylines of heroism to achieve world-saving outcomes. As a more realistic analogy for gamification, D&D is about the game master or experience designer facilitating events that keep the players motivated even when they fail, and giving them immediate feedback on their progress, eventually facilitating the epic win that they know is awaiting them. My final example is a real-world marketing campaign example for the Christopher Nolan Batman film The Dark Knight. It's a while ago, and it was also an alternate reality marketing campaign. The alternate reality game is a game that appears to be so real that players really can't tell the difference between it being real or not. And it usually takes the form of a scavenger hunt with a great many difficult puzzles that need to be solved and that lead the player to the next point in the game. Now, as the players solve each puzzle, they get closer to the epic outcome. Many did gain the epic win of achieving the outcome of the ARG by solving the final puzzle and learning of the hidden message from the Joker in the film. But even those who failed to solve the final puzzle still got the epic outcome, and that was the release of the film and its epic story. So, to wrap up this tour de force in considering and crafting an engaging gamified experience for your audience that utilizes the epic outcome mechanic, I'll leave you with a quick summary and a task. The epic win and epic fail need to be a surprise and unexpected. The epic win needs to feel like a moment of brilliance, as if the player is the only one that managed to figure it all out and is the hero. The epic fail cannot be crushing, especially in real life. Players need to have a glimmer of hope that they can succeed, and the failure still needs to be fun and maybe even comedic, but certainly filled with learning. And the epic win and fail are specific to the individual. It feels different and affects each person differently, which is why it is so difficult to achieve. To figure out your objective, use the SMART framework. Have it be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And for your outcome, have it be epic, explicit, practical, important, and calculable or quantifiable. And lastly, have a strong narrative for the quest, or challenge, or mission that leads to the epic outcome. Make sure that it has a constant and immediate feedback for your audience. So, my task for you is to use these concepts right now. During the next break, write down on a piece of paper an objective that you want to achieve, either personally or for your audience. Then run it through the SMART framework and the EPIC framework. Then, in the break after that, come up with an action plan with small milestones of how you or your audience would get to that outcome. And then tomorrow, build a quest and a narrative that leads your audience through that action plan to the epic outcome. And if you want to, send it through to me, and we'll have a look at it and see whether we can engage your audience in an epic experience. And with that, I would like to thank you all for listening to me, and I'd like to thank again the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak to you and impart some of the knowledge that I have. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference and the day, and good luck. And I will try my Korean one more time with 안녕. Thank you and goodbye.